Looking at this new Giants secondary, I'm trembling, I'm shaking in shock. It almost gives me a little Royal Rumble John Cena vibe.
What is this? It's John Cena!
What is coolin'? What's going on? I hope you guys doing amazing. It's NFL free agency time and we are going all in here. We got the chips in. It's the tampering period, which I feel like, man, I feel like a convict now. Some teams certainly should be feeling like convicts with the players that they're stealing right now. But we're going to talk about it. We got grades going out here. Now, I will say, these are just first initial reactions, certainly not perfect grades. Feel free to hit me up on what you think about these grades and where you have them at. We're going to go team by team. And one little quick note of emphasis here. My key, if it's in green, it means it's an outside free agent signing. They're coming to the football team. If they're in black, that means they're staying with the football team and they were re-signed. And if they are in red, that means they've been released or traded. So we look at the Tennessee Titans and you got Dan Moore Jr. coming in here from Pittsburgh. Solid signing. I mean, Dan Moore's gotten better and better each and every season. He went from early on in his career to not even being a starter. Like, he couldn't really, I mean, he was a starter, but he just wasn't really a serviceable starter. So now he's a good football player. It is an overpay. Like, it is a straight overpay. Now, they need to make sure they got bookend tackles, and I respect that. So you now go into next season with Dan Moore Jr. probably staying at left tackle, and I'm imagining they move J.C. Latham over to right tackle, and that's totally fine. I mean, I thought Latham did really good at his rookie season at left tackle, and I wouldn't really want to move him over there, but at the same time, you know he can do it, and I'm okay with this. You get bookend tackles, so you have a little bit of a trade-off here, and as I talk about, Dan Moore has gotten better and better and better, and you're hoping that elevation continues, and then he'd be worth that contract. But there is some risk with this, right? It is a big lump sum of money, and you can get out of it, after 3 years, 2.5, 3 years, something like that. But in general, getting bookend tackles, not bad there. You get Cody Barton at a linebacker, just continuing to add depth. Still not sure if they're going to keep Kenneth Murray at this point. He's still, I believe, on their roster. They haven't cut him just at the moment. Jerome Baker. No matter what, though, like, Barton comes in there, gives them some more run-stopping ability, and that's why I think, like, he can fit that Kenneth Murray role, and then maybe if you were to keep Jerome Baker as more of your coverage guy, then that would make sense. Not a bad signing at all. I don't know, it wasn't my favorite signing out there, and I'm trying to be somewhat tough with these grades, I guess, but it's not a bad signing. Barton's a quality player and borderline starter. And then you got Sebastian Joseph Day. I like this one. I think Joseph Day is a good rotational player, up to $7.5 million with incentives. And he's a good rotational player, and he can fit the run. He's a good gap shooter and also can get after the quarterback. They did have to go Harold Landry. Still waiting on that edge position, right? And it's like, they haven't gotten a quarterback. They haven't got an edge rusher. So I'm still thinking to myself, what are they going to do at number 1 overall? Like, Abdul Carter, or are they going Cam Ward? It's just, at this point, you really just don't know. And then on to the Cleveland Browns here, and they start off with getting Kenny Pickett in, a trade from the Philadelphia Eagles. 5th rounder. I mean, it was a little bit more than I'd like to give up for Kenny Pickett, but at the same time, it is a good situation for Pickett. Now he gets to go against Pittsburgh twice a year, and he'll get an opportunity to compete for the starting position. So I respect that. I'm not super high on it, though, and I do think they're going to be looking at quarterback now. 2nd overall, it would make a lot of sense. / 2nd round, maybe a trade up into the 1st round. All things are on the table here for them. I do like the Cornelius Lucas and the Joe Tryon-Shoyinka signings. Both really going to add some needed depth. Like, with Cornelius Lucas, I think he is a must for this football team with where they're at with Jack Conklin and DeJuan Jones, both being a little injury prone. Having Lucas in there as a swing tackle, and he was their best tackle at Washington this season. And he can still play, a good 400, 500 snaps for them in rotation, whatever they need to do. And he can be in 6 offensive linemen, so even if they're healthy out there, then that's fine. But I love that signing, and certainly going to add much needed depth into that offensive tackle room, and a good quality veteran in there. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, also just a nice solid rotational player on a risk-free deal up to $4.75 million. I have no problem with that at all, and going to give you more depth behind Isaiah McGuire and Okoronkwo. Obviously, you got Myles Garrett, who, speaking of which, 4 years, $40 million per season, got a huge, massive extension, becoming the highest-paid defensive player in the NFL. Well earned, and I'm glad he is going to be Cleveland to Canton. And then you got some releases. You got Dalvin Tomlinson and DTR traded over to the Eagles. Tomlinson will be a bit of a tough loss there, but I think they'll be able to combat that okay. On to the G-men. As I was alluding to at the beginning of this video, you look at this secondary, and what Joe Shane has been able to do in this offseason with Paulson Adebo and also now Jevon Holland coming in here. Light me a river, because that's going to be a really good duo. And this is one thing, like they got super young players in that secondary. They need some established pieces to go along with those guys like Tyler Nubin, Deontay Banks, Cordell Flott, Andrew Phillips, like all that young talent. Let's go solidify that with some, some top tier guys that we know can come in here. Yeah, it's expensive to give up, but I thought Jevon Holland was going to get top end safety money. He got less than Trevon Merrick. So that's an A+ signing. And then Paulson Adebo, for that injury, I thought he would have gotten top end cornerback money. $18 million looks like a bargain compared to some of the other guys like Byron Murphy and obviously J.C. Horn. So yeah, I mean, I really like both of those signings. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Roy Robbins-Harrison, fine. No problem with that. Some more depth on the defensive line. They needed. And then you got Chris Boyd, 2 years, up to $6 million. He's a good special teamer as well. So he looks solid depth right there. James Hudson, not a huge fan of that one. I just haven't really been impressed from him at Cleveland. But hey, maybe it can be a good swing tackle for them, because that's going to be something they do need. They've had some injuries, Andrew Thomas, so I respect that. I just thought it was a little bit more like, for example, Cornelius Lucas, we just talked about him, got less money. Chauncey Golston, good signing there. 3 years, just under $20 million. I love that. Great depth on who can play a little inside and outside, and strong run defender. And you got some re-signs here. DeVito, you got Manhertz, good blocker as a tight end. Love that signing. And then Jamie Gillen, Casey Crater brought back their long snapper, so I like that signing a lot too. And then last but not least, Darius Slayton brought back on a 3-year, $36 million deal. Once again, great signing. I mean, Slayton's underrated just because the quarterback situation's crap. I mean, it is what it is. But Slayton's a number 2 wide receiver, and you're seeing these number 2 wide receivers get a lot more money than this. Slayton is a legit guy who can make plays down the field. So you're adding him in with Malik Neighbors, keeping him there, really, really important. That's a great... I thought he was going to go with the money they were battling with Joe Shane. And that's one of the things, we talk about Joe Shane and what he's been able to, what he's done through the years, and some stuff that it's like, well, what's going on here? But at the same time, even though you have the Saquon Barkley and the Xavier McKinney sort of things, he has done a good job at bringing in some big-time talent to this roster. So I commend the Giants here and Joe Shane, what he's done this offseason so far. And then on to the New England Patriots here, and you look at, they got so much money to spend, and they did use some of it. Starting with Milton Williams, Carlton Davis, Harold Landry, Robert Spillane, Morgan Moses, Mac Hollins. I mean, you look at this group, and you automatically, there's clear upgrades here on this football team. Mike Vrabel with Milton Williams coming in here next to Christian Farmer. Ooh, that's going to be a scary duo. They've already talked about, hey, we want more passers on that defensive line, and they're gonna move to more of a one-gapping system. Well, Williams going to be dominant next to Christian Barmore. I love it. Really fun signing. There is some inherent risk, of course. It's $26 million average. It's a lot of money. And he was next to Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, and you got Mario Ojimo. Like, I respect that. Josh Sweat, Nolan Smith, you name it. Like, there are some talented guys on that Eagles defensive front, and that's why I give it an A-. But overall, like, really good signing. Same thing with Carlton Davis. Maybe there's a little bit of risk with some injury worry with him. That's the only reason I'll give this an A+. Like, I love Carlton Davis. I feel like he's a little underrated in the NFL in general. I view him as a true number 1 corner. He seems to miss a couple of games each and every season. So that's why I can't give this an A+. But yeah, it's expensive, $20 million. But we're seeing J.C. Horn get $25 million with even more injury concerns. Harold Landry, solid signing, and he's got good experience with Mike Vrabel, so I think that's a really good move. I mean, I do think that you're still going to need to add more pass rush, but at least Harold Landry comes in here, kind of knows Vrabel in the system, and he's going to work in seamlessly. It's a good transition for him. Spillane, another just kind of seems like a Patriot linebacker. And Spillane's an underrated guy. Like, this guy can cover, too. Like, he is a little bit of an underrated cover guy. He can make plays in the secondary. I mean, he's not the most athletic guy or anything like that, but he definitely has enough coverage skills and certainly is a solid run defender. Morgan Moses is a Jets fan. Trust me, Morgan Moses, a good player. Now, he was a little banged up this season, played injured for a good chunk, too. But he is a solid player, and you figure he factors into that right tackle position. They're going to be looking at the left tackle in the draft. All right, that's my guess. Will Campbell makes so much sense, or Armin Embu. And then you got Mac Hollins, 2 years, $8.4 million. I thought that was a great signing. Hollins had a great season for Buffalo. He's a touchdown machine, and yeah, why not? He's been, if nothing else, good depth for $4 million. I'm fine with that. Joshua Dobbs, great quarterback to bring in a veteran mentor next to Drake May, and even for Joe Milton, of course. You got Kyrus Tunga, 1-year deal. Fine with that. Good run defender. They let go of Devon Gotchow, and they traded him to the Saints, which was a good move in general, I think, for the Saints. And for the Patriots, they wanted to scheme, it's a scheme change. Austin Hooper, love that re-sign as well. He was really good, had good chemistry with Drake May. Overall, really good signings for the New England Patriots. And then we go on to the Jags. I don't know what it is with the Jags at this point. Maybe it isn't Trent Baalke, maybe it's an organizational thing, but I mean, there's a couple of signings that I really like here with Patrick McCarry and also with Robert Hainsey. I'm a huge Robert Hainsey fan. I watched that New Orleans. I mean, I watched all the games and whatnot, but that game where it was sticking out to me versus the New Orleans Saints, even though the Saints defensive line was struggling at times, like he was kicking butt there. And you can look at some of that film. He was really good, and I think he's got a lot of potential to be a really good center. And for $7 million a season, I'm really liking that signing. He is a guy that I think is going to come in there with Liam Cohen, and that understanding as well of knowing each other, having that background is really important too when you're picking some of these offensive linemen or defensive linemen just with scheme and things like that. So I thought that was a really good signing. A+, my favorite signing for the Jags, 100%. Now you look at some of these other guys like Jordan Lewis. Is a little interesting, right? There's some question marks and some bing, 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 bing going off in my head at the same time, but he is a guy that is a good slot corner. He is 30 years old. Do you pay those corners that are getting a little bit older like that in the slot, $30 million, which is $10 million a season? He's the highest slot paid corner now in the NFL. He is a very good slot corner. He had a great season. But once again, it's a little bit of a risk, especially when you got Jerry Jones. I thought, it's like maybe they're probably going to have Jerry Jones play on the outside. He did play outside at Florida State. I thought his best tape was in the slot. And he was really good this season in the slot for the Jaguars. Really was their best corner. So now you have kind of like two guys are in the slot. But Jones, like I said, is probably going to go play on the outside now to go along with Campbell on the outside. And you got Patrick McCarry. I thought was a really good signing there. A little expensive, and that's why I didn't give it an A+. But he has been a versatile guy that's played up and down offensive line for the Ravens. Dyami Brown, going to be another deep threat in there. This was, to me, I don't know. I didn't love this signing. I really didn't. But, of course, they're going to add more weapons in here. It's like, I would just rather than keep Christian Kirk use that money for that rather than paying Dyami Brown up to $10 million. I don't know. It didn't make a whole ton of sense. And I also feel like they need more of an intermediate to short route runner type of guy in that offense. Like, you've got a deep threat. Hopefully Gabe Davis comes along a little bit better next season in Liam Cohen's new offense. But it's like Brian Thomas Jr. is your elite wide receiver one with that crazy speed. Trevor Lawrence is one of the best deep ball throwers. So I understand what you're bringing in Dyami Brown. It makes a lot of sense in that regard. But at the same time, it's like I do think they need to work the middle of the field more consistently. And maybe they can draft a T-Mac or something like that. But that's my one question mark too with that. And it does seem expensive for his production just coming in the playoffs. It seems a little risky. Eric Murray's fine, good backup safety have, but for $7.5 million, a little shaky in my opinion. Johnny Munt, good backup, has background with Liam Cohen back to the Rams days. Hunter Long, 2-year deal, also coming over from the Rams. Fine, no problem with that. Good solid backup to bring in, I guess. Nick Mullins, there you go, your backup for Trevor Lawrence. That's fine. He is a solid backup. Chuma Dogo is good backup as well. I like this signing. I thought it was a really good signing there. He has left tackle and right tackle experience. Walker Little's been a little injured, so it makes sense to bring in a good swing tackle. They did let go of Evan Ingram, Devin Duvernay, and they traded Christian Kirk to the division rival Houston Texans. A D. I hate that one, man. I don't love it. One of the Vegas Raiders here, and I love the Geno Smith trade. I really do. I thought this was an excellent move. Of course, you're going to have to eventually pay him. And you can say, well, does Geno Smith give you that elite quarterback number one? No, I don't think so. But Geno is better than what he gets credit for out there. And he's going to have a better offensive line, like automatically with this Raiders team than what he did for the Seattle Seahawks. So, yeah, I think they just need to add another weapon in here. In general, though, like I love the trade. And for a third-round pick, it's better than what they could have gotten in this draft, probably even in the first round. Alex Kappa, fine with this one. Kappa's a solid pickup here for this. If nothing else, like on this contract, you don't have to have him as a starter. He struggled immensely for the Bengals, and that's obviously why they cut him. However, once again, for this contract, it's not a huge deal, right? You can get out of this deal after one season, but it does bring another guy in there to be that other guard on that front. Jackson Powers Johnson can move into the center position, and then you rock and roll with Kappa and Parham as your two guards. And then safety-wise, I thought Jeremy Chin was a great signing. 2 years, $16 million. Yeah, I have no problem with that one at all. I think that was a really good signing. Chin's been a really good player for the Commanders. You got Alani Johnson Jr., just more depth. Eldon Roberts, good signing there as well. I like that one a lot. Roberts a good player. And he plays with a tough motor, man. He's just a tough motor, grit guy. Some must re-signs, like guys like Malcolm Coons, Adam Butler, Mad Max Crosby, love that. Isaiah Palomalo. So good, solid signings here. Good depth on the roster. I think they've done a pretty dang good job so far. Let's talk about it. Just want to get another outside weapon. They can do that in the draft. You can get a running back in the draft. I think they're in the right direction here with this Raiders football team. Then we go on to the New York Football Jets, and they got Justin Fields as the new quarterback. I actually, as a Jets fan, I am really excited about this. I gave it a B+. I'm tempering my expectations, okay? So we got to stay what it is, but at the same time, like Fields is the exact opposite of Aaron Rodgers. It seems like every team, it's like when they get a quarterback and it doesn't work out, they go the exact opposite. Fields is a out of structure, athletic, can run, playmaker type of quarterback. Rodgers more your drop back passer, let that ball sling. So we'll see if Fields can continue to develop the processing point of his game. That's been really his biggest problem, is the mental side of it. But I love what he's going to bring to the table. The work ethic, all those things are there with Justin Fields. 2 years, $40 million. Not super, like, it is a lot of money. $20 million a season, still not cheap. But at the same time, for a quarterback, that's kind of what you're looking at. And they got Brandon Stevens, a little expensive, but I actually don't mind this in a way. The more I think about it, too, I might even up that grade a little bit, because I do think he'll be a better scheme fit for AG in more of a man scheme, right? I don't think he's really the greatest zone corner all the time. Andre Cisco, another great signing. I can't stress this enough. I love this signing. Yes, it's $10 million, or 1 year, $10 million. It's no long-term sort of thing, but at the same time, I think Cisco is way better than what he put on tape last year. And that system in general, Ryan Nielsen, just didn't work out for him. So a new start with Aaron Glenn, who's now got his Kirby Joseph of this defense. And Jermaine Sherwood, thank you. He is back. Yes, it's a little expensive. I get that. Probably had to pay him top dollar to bring him back, but you keep your guys that you've drafted and you've developed. He's come a long, long way from a former safety out of Auburn. Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, gone. Then we go on to the Carolina Panthers here. They've been busy as well with some financial dollars. Trevon Merrick, great signing here. Love it. He's going to end up probably replacing Xavier Woods now. And yeah, it's a little expensive. 3 years, $51 million, $17 million average. But he's going to clean up some of that run game. And also Bobby Brown will do that too. Their run game was one of the worst that I've ever seen. Actually, I think statistically it was one of the worst that ever. So there's that. But both of those guys are going to help out. Tershawn Wharton also is going to help out in that regard. Wharton, I go back and forth with. Like, it's a lot of money. It's up to $54 million. It's 45 that it can be 54 with incentives. Now, it's not 45 guaranteed, but it's 45 that can move up to 54 with incentives. So that would work out to be an $18 million average. It's a $15 million average where it's currently at, though, where, with just the 45 million. So I want to be clear with that. It's up to $18 million average. I should actually list the 15 instead of the 18. That'd be more clarity purposes wise. Still, though, it is expensive. Warren was really good, and I think you could categorize him as an underrated player, but for $15 million a year, he's not an underrated player anymore. Like, that's a lot of chump change, man. It is an expensive contract. I thought more around the range of like 10 million would be the market for Wharton, but obviously D-tackle getting pushed up a little bit here, clearly. It's going to help them out, though. He's going to be a really good player for them. Patrick Jones, I love this one. Jones flashed for me every time I was watching Vikings games and he was out there. This guy is able to rush from a lot of different alignments too. Brian Flores used him creatively, and I think Carolina and E.J. Avero can do the same thing on that defensive front. So I thought that was a really good move. And then re-signs J.C. Horn. $25 million a season. I love J.C. Horn. An unbelievable corner. He is a true number one corner. Don't get me wrong. But the injury is a serious risk, and you're paying him elite money. That is the big question mark here with J.C. Horn. If he plays through that contract, stays healthy, that's an A. It's an easy move, but it is very expensive, and with the injury risk that he carries, that's a little bit of a concern. Michael Jackson, really good move here. Michael Jackson, not the thriller Jackson, even though I thought he did a thriller this year for the Carolina Panthers and stepped up in that number 2 cornerback role, and that's why they brought him back on a clear raise. He deserved it. So I think that was a good move for them. Andy Dalton, 2-year deal. I'm not sure the specifics of that just yet. Solid backup, fine with that. Tommy Tremble, little expensive for me for Tremble. He's a good blocker. He hasn't quite been able to develop into a consistent pass catcher. And then Austin Corbett back, fine with that too. Like, Corbett's a good player. As long as it's not super expensive, should be fine. Miles Sanders now gone. Like, some really good moves, though. I think in general, the Panthers have made a significant improvement to the New Orleans Saints. And despite the lack of cap space, I feel like they've done a good job. Like, Devon Gatchow for a next year 7th round pick, even though you're going to have to pay that contract. At the same time, like, Gatchow is exactly the type of guy they need, because they also were really bad in the run game this year. I think that was a really good move because he's a very good run defender. He's one of the better run defenders actually in the NFL. So he's going to help them out so much there. And then Chase Young, I like this deal a lot too. 3 years, $51 million. He was excellent this season. I know he's gotten a lot of flack through the years, but he was really good this year. And then they did let go Jamal Williams. But in general, I thought they did a good job with their 2 signings re-signed there. Chicago Bears, they've been busy. Ben Johnson trying to rework this offensive line right now. You got Drew Tallman, Joe Thuney, and Jonah Jackson. Woo! That's a whole different interior. They literally have 3 different starters on that interior. And it wouldn't shock me if they still drafted a tackle in the first round, like a Will Campbell or an Armin Embu. Who knows, right? We'll see how that works out. But in general, it is not a top priority anymore. Like, they've now done a solid job. They're going to have to still invest because, look, Joe Thuney, Jonah Jackson, expensive. They have to look at the future here, getting older with Joe Thuney. So that makes a lot of sense. They're still going to have to develop and draft a guard. But overall, like, they have made significant improvements here. Joe Thuney is still one of the best offensive linemen, interior offensive linemen in the NFL, period. Maybe he is the best guard this season. He was the MVP for the Chiefs, and the Chiefs just unfortunately had to let him go, so the Bears were the beneficiary of that. Great move. A+, one of the biggest time additions for this roster, is going to stabilize, be a pass protector, and an immediate upgrade for this team. Jonah Jackson should be fine too. He has good experience with Ben Johnson. They know each other. That always helps with offensive linemen. And I think he'll settle in over at that right guard position. Thuney at left guard, and then Dahlman obviously is your center. And Dahlman's fair. I thought he could have gotten more than that too. So I give that a solid B+. I mean, he's not an elite pass protector or anything like that, but you got Joe Thuney next to you. That's going to be really, really nice. And then we got Deo Dangbo and Grady Jarrett to improve that defensive line. Both really good signings. Yeah, they were expensive. And Grady Jarrett at this point is not, prime Grady Jarrett. Okay, so that's why I'm not giving this a higher grade than that. But both are really, really good players, and they're going to need to add much needed help onto that defensive line. Deo Dangbo is a little bit of an underrated player. I thought he really came along this season for the Indianapolis Colts, and now he gets his chance. And this could be a similar situation to like what we saw in this past year with a guy like Dorrance Armstrong from the Washington Commanders. So we'll see, but I really think that could be a good signing for them. He's just gotten healthier and healthier and better and better. And then you got Durham Smythe back. You're on a contract here, a 1-year deal. That's fine, some depth. And then you got Omen O for some more special teams. He's a really good special teamer, so that's a good signing on a not super expensive deal either as a core special team leader. On to the San Francisco 49ers, and they've been busy. They've been purging the football team with a lot of these core veteran players that have been on the team for so long now. Juszczyk's gone. No, can you believe that? Unbelievable. 8 great seasons. It is sad, but I get it. You had to save money, and it's sad. Maybe he'll come back. You never know. There might be a reunion. He maybe comes back on a team-friendly deal. That's still in the cards, I'm sure. Leonard Floyd, Malik Collins, Javon Hargrave, Deebo Samuel traded to the Commanders. I actually don't mind that trade. Look, people say, oh, it's for a 5th-round pick. They got to steal. At the same time, like, they offloaded that contract, so there's going to be a lot of help financially for the San Francisco 49er football team going forward into the future. They just have to be a little tight. They're hitting the reset button, kind of like what the Rams did last season with their cap space, or the past couple of seasons, should I say. So I'm not hating of that. I actually wasn't a huge fan of the Luke Farrell signing, 3 years up to $20 million plus. It's fine. He's a solid backup tight end. I haven't seen a ton from Luke Farrell that would say, oh my goodness, you know what I mean? But hey, maybe he's going to be a good blocker for them. And I think that's really what they were looking for, is a quality number 2 tight end. So you got Patrick Taylor and Richie Grant. Richie Grant could be a sneaky signing, maybe. Who knows? He might have to take over and be, a good rotational player for them with Malik Mustafa and then also with Jair Brown. Last thing, the re-signs. Ben Barch, fine, no problem. Some more depth on the offense line, never hurts. Jordan Mason on that 2nd-round tender. I thought that was good. Mason was really good this season. We go on to the Dallas Cowboys here. They're starting to make some moves here on day 2 and whatnot. Starting to get a little more involved with things. I mean, bringing back Osa Digazua was huge, of course, on a big contract. But hey, it's still way cheaper than Milton Williams. And I actually still, personally, would rather have Osa Digazua. Milton Williams, I think maybe has a little more upside, a little more athletic profile, more room to grow. But at the same time, like, I like Osa Digazua. He takes over games. And bringing him back is so vital to this defensive line. And then Kevondre Turpin, one of the best special teamers, return man in the NFL, and now he's the highest paid special team returner in the NFL. And I hope they use him more as a playmaker on offense. He is so good, so electric. CJ Goodwin, great special teamer, brought him back. Trent Sieg as their long snapper brought back. And then you talk about some of their signings. Javonte Williams, they've been very budget here. Solomon Thomas is back in Texas, so that's cool. All right. And then Robert Jones, good sneaky signing there. I think he'll definitely compete. So I actually think a lot of their signs were really, really good in general. They were very strategical, very tactical. They brought back their guys. So for right now, I think Cowboys have actually had a good offseason. People are going to complain about this. Oh, they're not bringing any guys, but their cap space is tight. They really are a team, just like the Baltimore Ravens, that pride on bringing in back their guys and going in the draft. And that's an approach that every team looks at, in their own ways. And then on the Miami Dolphins, and you look at what they've done here. Zach Wilson, okay, he's back in this division, and we'll see what happens. But a good backup, I'm fine with that. As James Daniel, love this signing, really, really good sign. Even though he's coming off a significant injury, 3 years, $24 million, allows him to get fully healthy, okay? And for $8 million a season, James Daniel can outperform that contract very easily when he is out there healthy. He is one of the better right guards still in the end. I mean, he's a good right guard. I think maybe not one of the top 10 guard, but I think he's in that 10 to 20 range. He could easily be in that range for sure. Larry Borum, okay, swing tackle. Makes a lot of sense that they're going to have to find some depth at the tackle position. So maybe Borum. I know the Bears fans are probably glad he's gone. Afeti Melifonwu, great signing. If he can stay healthy, he's a starter. Like, this dude's he has so much potential to be a really, really good safety. It's just the injuries. He barely can stay on the field. That's the problem. Elijah Campbell, good depth. I like that one. Quinn Bell, good special teamer in depth. Raheem Morris, Mostert now gone. The Indianapolis Colts and Chris Ballard spending money. This Colts organization, what's going on here? This has got to be fake. But no, it isn't. It's real. Charvarius Ward, I love Charvarius Ward, man. And it is a little risky, okay? But, he's a little bit of an older corner, so that's why I had to lower this down. But I'm really rooting for this guy coming off such a tough year in his family and everything like that. So really excited for him to be an Indianapolis Colt. And really, as a Hoosier, rooting all the best for Charvarius Ward and what he brings to the table there. Great cover man when fully healthy and not dealing with any of those sort of things, with the family and stuff like that. He is a really good player. Cam Bynum coming over here as well to the Colts from the Minnesota Vikings. Skull. Well, they took Will Fries, so they had to go steal one of their own players, I guess. And Cam Bynum over here, 4 years, $60 million. Great player. He is the definition of understands the game of football. His IQ level is 9,000. I don't know. It's our 5 power levels over 5,000. Like, that is legit what Cam Bynum brings. He's going to be that elite presence. That signals Julian Blockman's now going to be out the door, which is fine. Nick Cross and Bynum going to be a great 1-2 punch in that secondary, and Charvarius Ward as that veteran leader in there. So love it. Really good to overhaul their secondary. They needed to do it. They needed to add some veteran leadership. They have a lot of youth in there. And they got Daniel Jones. They won out the competition between them and the Minnesota Vikings. And it makes sense. Like, they need to add more competition with Anthony Richardson. So I'm fine with it. It's a little expensive, a little bit more ideal than what I'd like to pay. But at the same time, again, it's still cheaper than Justin Fields out there and stuff like that. Ashton Dolan back as well. He's just kind of been a Colt for, hey, you got to bring back some of those guys and more depth. And then on to the Atlanta Falcons here, and a sneaky signing here with Divine Diablo. I like this one. I think he's going to fit in right exactly to what they need as a hybrid coverage player to go along with Caden Ellis. Ellis is so good around the box and making plays. And, he's no slump in coverage either, but, I think that they needed that guy in there, and Divine Diablo is going to be that dude. And I love Nate Landman, but he is more of an early down run defender type of guy. Just doesn't have the athleticism. Unfortunately, if he did, he'd be a top 5 linebacker. His instincts are incredible. And then they brought back a long snapper. Fine. There's no problem with that. Jake Matthews, also giving a contract extension. Left tackle. Franchise left tackle, might I add. And he's probably said, hey, look, I still want to play. I'm still, feel good. And you go from there. And he's worth the money, right? He's a good left tackle. The only nitpick on this is that it was a lot of money. Right now, he's been able to stay healthy through his career, so I understand that. But you look at comparative deals like Ronnie Stanley, and you say, well, it's a little more expensive. But once again, the health is definitely a big thing there. Grady Jarrett, an era. What a great era it has been with Grady Jarrett, but unfortunately now it is over. So they'll be moving on with some youth there with Ruka Roro and some of those guys. On to the Arizona Cardinals now, where their mission must have been get more pass rush. Well, they did that. retained Baron Browner first and foremost, who I thought came on at the end of the season big time and helped out that pass rush get way better. And then Josh Sweat on a 4-year, $76.4 million deal. It's a lot, okay, and that's why I gave it a B, because there's a little bit of risk, as I talked about earlier with Milton Williams. You got a lot of guys on that defensive line who are really good, and it does free up, but Sweat is a good football player, and you saw what he did in the Super Bowl and throughout his career. He has been a really good passer, still a young player, too, in his prime of his career. So it makes sense. And it is somebody that is going to help them out tremendously off the edge. Same thing with Baron Browner, who I think that's a steal. Like, borderline, I think that's a steal signing. I might even move that up to an A+, because I like Baron Browning a lot. Evan Brown, I love that one too. That's an A, easy A for me. Evan Brown gives you versatility as a center and a guard for injuries or whatever, but he was their left guard last season. Keep him over there. He's a good football player. Aaron Brewer, their long snapper. You got Akeem Davis-Gaither coming over from the Bengals. It's fine. He's a good special teamer. It's a little expensive, in my opinion, for a backup there. He's going to be a core special teamer, but he's a solid player that give him some more depth in that linebacking rotation. On to the Cincinnati Bengals now, and they were a little bit busy re-signing some guys. They brought in a couple of dudes. TJ Slayton, going to be exactly what they need as a good run defender, one of the better run defenders in the NFL. 2 years, $15 million, not super expensive either. So I love it, man. I think that's going to be a good signing to go along with some of their youth and Chris Jenkins and McKinley Jackson. And then Oren Burks, good linebacker, played well for the Philadelphia Eagles when he had to fill in for, some of those guys who, when they got down with injuries, whether it was Nakobe Dean or whatever, like Oren Burks stepped up. So I thought that was a really good signing. 2 years, $5 million. That's a really good deal. Samaje Perine, fine. He comes back, and he's a good, solid, pass protector, can be a third down back and get some more depth. I don't love it. It's not my favorite move or anything like that, but the familiarity, I'm cool with it, and it is a good story to bring him back. It's a very cheap deal as well, and he brings a solid third running back in the room. And then we go, there's not a lot of guarantees either in that. So it's like a 1 year thing, $1 million. So you go on to the re-signs, T. Higgins franchise tag. Absolutely. You got to do it. Hopefully they can work out a long-term extension. BJ Hill, I'm good with this one, man. I like BJ Hill. He's a solid player. And, was a little bit picked on this season. Overall, he is a good football player. And now you got TJ Slayton next to him, going to really help them out and some of those young guys. And you got Mike Gesicki. People are hating on this one. I thought Gesicki was amazing. Yeah, he's not an inline blocker, whatever. But look, he was a really good receiving option for them. Like when they were covering up Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, I thought that Mike Gesicki, or when they had injuries, right, Gesicki really stepped up in those games. And just in general, he was really good this season. So I'm fine with that contract. I don't think it's as bad as people are saying it is to be. I don't know, maybe I'm just hearing that out there. I heard it from a couple of people, so I'm like, I disagree. I thought that was a good one. Joseph Asai, like that one, no problem with that. Good depth. I know people are going to talk about him in the penalty, but in general, he's been a good rotational player. It's a little expensive, that's why I didn't give it a little bit higher, but Tanner Hudson, Caladonis, and Cody Ford, Marco Wilson, awesome depth. Nothing crazy to talk about, but it's fine, right? There's some solid depth. Alex Kappa released, saving some money there, and also going to have to upgrade that interior. Like, they have to do that in the draft, and I think that's maybe even leading them into possibly a first-round pick on the interior of the offensive line. Interesting here, the Seattle Seahawks, they've done it. They've gone after Sam Darnold, and this was an easy A+ for me. This could be a little bit of Baker Mayfield vibes, in my opinion, and it's a very similar contract to what Baker just got, and for $33.5 million, that's a steal. I really think that's a steal. Yeah, maybe it's a one-year wonder sort of situation, and you're wrong, and you can get out of this contract in 2 years, it's fine. If that was the worst case scenario, then that is what it is. But I think for Seattle, it's a really, really good move. He's going to be a perfect scheme fit for them, and Sam Darnold's going to be familiar as well. So you bring him in here, and you have to improve the weaponry. You just have Jackson Smith and Jigba right now. So you lose DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. You're going to need to add another weapon, whether that's a draft, whether that's a free agent pickup, even though it's getting a little dwindled at this point. So they're going to have to figure that out. However, they're in a good position here. They need to improve the offensive line as well, though. That is my big concern other than the receiver position. So defensively wise, they're in a really good position. You brought in Ernest Jones, or brought him back. You brought Jaron Reed back, who is a good player there and had a really good season next to Big Cat Williams. And both of those guys on 3-year deals and modest deals at that, too. I thought they were both really respectable deals and very fair. Josh Jones also is somebody that they brought in. I don't know the specifics yet. I have to look that up once again, but for right now, it's a little bit unknown. Good swing tackle, though. I like that. And if you do have injuries with Abe Lucas, he can slide over there and be a starter at right tackle. So that makes a lot of sense for them. And you look at all these releases, though, as I talked about earlier, they're going to have to fill some of these voids. And draft-wise, the interior of the offensive line has to be a top priority. The wide receiving position has to be a top priority. Those are going to be areas that they're going to need to focus in on going into the draft and continuing to this free agency approach. But in general, right now, I love what they've been able to do with Sam Darnold and getting some of these guys back like Ernest Jones, Jerron Reed, and bringing in Josh Jones as a swing tackle. Really, really solid offseason so far for the Seattle Seahawks, even despite losing a lot of playmakers and a lot of core guys. It does hit the bone. And maybe Tyler Lockett comes back on a one-year deal, restructure, comes back cheaper. Like, I think it could be a Fletcher Cox situation there. And then on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I thought Jason Light in this organization has had a really solid offseason so far. Hassan Reddick's going to come in on a one-year, $14 million deal that, hey, he has said, look, this is what he brought in. So he's going to be ready to go for training camp and hopefully back to Hassan Reddick mode and getting back to that dominance, ready to prove himself for one last contract. Hey, it's a win-win scenario. That's my view on it. And the risk, if you lose $14 million and you lose $14 million in general, the upside and the trajectory and what he's going to be looking for in one last contract, I think it makes a lot of sense. So it's a really good signing, in my opinion. They need more pass rush in that veteran leadership to go along with Chris Braswell and Yaya Diaby. Makes so much sense in here as that other edge rusher. Chris Godwin, Ben Bredeson, Levante David, A+. Got to bring these guys back. Bredeson's a little bit underrated in general. Thought he was really good. Yeah, you're next to Tristan Wirfs, and Cody Barton was good as a rookie. So there's that. But at the same time, Bredesen did a really good job. So I love that signing. Not super expensive either. $7.3 million. Very fair contract. Chris Godwin, a very fair contract. He kind of took a hometown discount, in my opinion. He could have gotten $30 million on the open market. I truly believe that. So he took a clear hometown discount to play in Tampa. Love it for him. Love it for the organization. Levante David, 1 year, $10 million. Got to keep, he's a Hall of Famer. Easy. Both of those guys, Hall of Famer. Chris Godwin and Levante David. Well, I mean, I think Godwin should be a Hall of Famer too. We'll see how he finishes his career. I don't see why he's not on that trajectory. Levante David, definitely Hall of Famers. I also heard they just brought in punter Riley Dixon on a couple-year deal as well. Help with that punting situation. Let's go on to the Denver Broncos here, and I love some of these signings. Talanoa Bunga. You don't just bring the name, but you also bring the play style. You bring the toughness. This guy is one of the best at what he does as this hybrid box safety. Comes down and fits those gaps, and he is a playmaker as well. If he's healthy, this is amazing. That's the only reason why I don't give this a higher grade. It's just because of some of the injury risks. You got Dre Greenlaw. Also, only reason I don't give this an A+ is because some of the injury risks. But he should be, at this point, what is it, like 20 months? It's almost been 2 years now. So he should be good to go on that Achilles injury. Love it, though, as another guy in this defense. And he's just going to bring an absolute beast as a blitzer and as a cover man. He's certainly going to help them out in that linebacking room. And then you go on to DJ Jones, who's brought back a little expensive. Okay, that's why I give it a little bit lower grade. He's going to be like 30 years old. Still a very good player, very good run defender, runs with his hat on fire or his hair on fire, whatever phrase you want to use. And then, obviously, I've got the interior of the defensive lineman, Jared Stidham. Here, let me change that. Jared Stidham does not play defensive tackle. I just, that would be funny, though. Hey, you never know, right? Come on, Jared, you got this. But, hey, he comes back on a 2-year deal. $12 million as a backup. Little expensive, but hey, you got to have a backup quarterback. Sean Payton, going to go and keep him around. He's kind of a Payton guy as well. The Pittsburgh Steelers, we're still waiting on who's going to be the quarterback. Is it Aaron Rodgers? Is it going to be Russell Wilson again? Marcus Mariota's still out there. Who knows? But for right now, we don't know what we don't know. I love the DK Metcalf trade, though. For a second-round pick, I mean, yes, you could say, well, we could just draft a receiver. I think DK Metcalf is just, still the best at what he does in terms of one-on-one as a deep threat. It's hard to cover DK Metcalf. He is extremely talented, and I think for a second-round pick, it's worth it. And, yes, you have to give him a 5-year, $150 million deal. They can work out the money. They're not paying a quarterback top-tier money right now, so I'm not as worried about that. I think it's a really good spot for him, and it's going to also entice maybe a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers to come here and say, oh, I got DK Metcalf, George Pickens. I love it. I really do. And then I will say DK Metcalf, just one of my favorite players to watch in the NFL. At Ole Miss, too, I was a huge fan of him. So there's a little bit of bias there, I'm honest with that, but I think it's a great maneuver there. Malik Harrison, I like that one as well. Solid linebacker, 2 years, $10 million, gives him some more depth there. Not that they really needed it, though, so that's my only knock on this. Harrison's a good player, and they had to steal him from the Ravens. I get that, but, they've already got some depth. It's going to be a fill-in there since they lost Eldon Roberts, and that's really what this is. So that makes sense. I love Cole Holcomb, though, and hope he gets healthy. I'm rooting for him. Donald Parham Jr., 1-year deal. I'm fine with this one as well. Give him some more depth. It's like that third tight end. No problem at all. I think we just got to see who they get at quarterback. On to the Los Angeles Chargers, where they start off with Dante Jackson. cornerback, formerly of Pittsburgh. I thought this was a steal. I really do. And Dante Jackson, like, there's a lot of risk, of course, with the injury. But before the injury this past season for the Pittsburgh Steelers, he was excellent. And then got injured, and he struggled at the end of the season. And I think it left a sour taste in their mouth. But overall, like, the risk to reward here is definitely on the reward side, in my view, on this. And for a $6.5 million average, I'll take that, no problem. You can get out of the contract quick after 1 year. That's an easy sell for me. And they did lose Christian Fulton, so it makes a lot of sense to get another cornerback in here with some experience. Najee Harris, I love this one too. 1 year up to $9.25 million. Not a lot of guarantees there that you have to, long-term wise. And Harris has been a reliable player through his career as well. So this signals that they're not going to re-sign J.K. Dobbins, which is tough because J.K. had such a good season. However, Najee Harris should come in right there, and it also doesn't force their hand to have to draft a running back right away. I would still like to add them some more juice into the room. But for right now, like, Harris brings in a bell cow for them. Then you got re-signs. You got Khalil Mack, the sack attack's back. They did have to let go of Bosa, unfortunately, as you see later on. Gus Edwards, too. But Mack being back definitely helps out that room with Tuitu Pelotu. Elijah Molden, so critical for them. I'm glad they brought him back on a 3-year cheap contract, especially look at some of these other safeties that got money. I thought Molden was excellent for them this season when healthy. So you bring him in there with Derwin James, who's that ever-versatile chess piece in the secondary, and Alohi Gilman in the back end. Tier Tart, they weren't able to bring back Poona Ford, but at least they got Tier Tart. I imagine they'll be looking at the draft at another defensive tackle. Bradley Boozman, and I'm fine with this one. Boozman has a guard center versatility as well. So and what I'm hearing is Zion Johnson's going to end up playing center for them. And that allows Bradley Boozman to be a little bit of a teacher role / emergency relief / depth. You need some depth. I'm cool with that one. J.K. Scott as their punter coming over here for keeping him around for 2 years, $6 million. Fine with that one. So I feel like the Chargers have had a great offseason so far. And on to the Green Bay Packers. What did Brian Gutekunst do? Well, he spent some money and started off with Aaron Banks from the 49ers. This was an interesting one, a little bit of it makes sense. Like, you get another guard on this offensive line. You got Jordan Morgan. Maybe he plays over at right guard, or Banks over at right guard. One of those guard spots filled, and you move Jenkins back inside to center. That's an option for them. I mean, hey, there's a lot of options on the table. They love versatile offensive linemen, so I imagine they'll maneuver the offensive line their best five and things like that. But it was a little expensive in my eyes, and that's why I gave it a little bit lower. Banks still needs to improve a little bit in pass pro. He's not terrible. He's gotten better in that regard. He's a good run blocker, and he will certainly add a nice piece for them on that offensive line that needed some more help for sure. And then you got Nate Hobbs, slot corner, but I do think Hobbs is going to play on the outside for the Packers, which will be a little interesting. Now, he's shown he can play on the outside. I mean, he's a stud. He's also got a little bit injury prone. Like, he brought in two guys that are a little injury prone, but Hobbs is a beast. Now, I'm not questioning that. Like, Hobbs is a top tier, one of the best slot corners in the game. Like, there's no question in my mind about that. It just comes down to the injury risk with Hobbs. So 4 years, $48 million. If he stays healthy, then that's going to be worth that contract. And I'm fully guessing he's playing on the outside, especially with that contract. Isaiah McDovey, love that one. Jeff Halfley, the system, perfect. Brandon McManus stabilized that kicker position, so they paid him. It's a little expensive, but it's fine. He's a good kicker, and they needed it. They've had problems. On to Skull. Oh, yeah, the Skull chance, baby. Let's go. And we start off with some signings out here with Isaiah Rodgers. 2 years, $15 million. I love it. Really do. He was really good in limited sample size for the Eagles, and he's been good for the Indianapolis Colts. And he had that suspension, but now he's fully back, and I think they're just going to be the beneficiaries of this for Brian Flores and this defense. He's going to be a perfect fit. And then Ryan Kelly at center. I also like this one. I know they got Bradbury under contract, but they clearly need an upgrade there at center. It's been a problem for them for years. So Ryan Kelly, 2 years, $18 million. Maybe Bradbury gets traded, but if not, I'd love to keep him around his depth. And that way, if Ryan Kelly does have, he's been a little banged up and whatnot, especially at this point in his career. However, overall, I thought that was a really good signing. $9 million, cheaper than Drew Dahlman. Now, maybe Dahlman obviously is younger and, whatnot, and a little less injury prone stuff. So I get that. But at the same time, Ryan Kelly's just as good, if not better. So I think that's a really good one. And he's also just a locker room guy as well. Nothing I hear but greatness with Ryan Kelly and what he meant to the Indianapolis Colts. You got Jonathan Allen. This was a great signing as well. Falls right into your lap. You need a big interior pass rusher. Well, you just got him. So you have Harrison Phillips and Jonathan Allen. Huge signing. I cannot express enough. You guys got to steal. I think he'll be back. He just was injured this season, right? And his numbers took a bit of a dip, but he is a top interior pass rusher. So, hey, it is what it is. There were some other things going on there, clearly, but I love it. Will Fries, they stole him as well from the offense line for the Colts, and that's, hey, it is what it is, but I think they got a big-time addition with their offensive line with Ryan Kelly and Will Fries. I mean, what can I say? That interior offensive line has been a big problem. Now they just shored it up, and in a major way, too. And then re-signs. You got Aaron Jones, Theo Jackson, Ryan Wright, and what a great name, and then Byron Murphy. Good re-signs as well. Like all those from top to bottom, I cannot complain about. Byron Murphy, a little expensive. That would be my only schneid on this, but it was a priority re-sign for them. They had the cap space to do it. They needed to do it. Between Rodgers, Murphy, I like those two signings to help them out in that secondary. And their offensive line, big time additions, defensive line, offensive line. They really hit some of those points of emphasis. I think Minnesota Vikings have done a really good job this offseason of free agency. Now you just got to hit some draft picks, right? That's been their biggest problem is draft picks. They've done a great job in free agency. Let's see if they can do it in the draft now. On to the Houston Texans, and they've been busy. They have been busy. Start off with the signings. Christian Kirk, they traded for him from the Jacksonville Jaguars. I love that. Great move for them. And will fill right in for Tank Dell while he's injured. So I think it makes so much sense. He can come over here on like a $16 million cap hit. Totally fine with that. No problem. But they weren't done with trades. They also traded for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, which with Jamie Ward at this point in his career, it makes sense to trade for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Now, he is going to be going in, well, he's still under contract for 2 years, and his contract's like not super expensive. So I thought it was a really good move for them, and especially trading Kenyon Green for it. I actually might even move that grade up a little bit. Again, their first reactions, they're not perfect, but I think he's going to be a really, really good fit in DeMeco Ryans' scheme. Darrell Taylor, like this one, good depth off the edge. You got Sheldon Rankins, good player with familiarity. I like that signing a lot. Braxton Berrios, fine. Depth, same thing with Justin Watson. Add another deep threat with Watson, some size. Leighton Tomlinson's been Mr. Reliable through his career, so that's a good signing as well. At least it brings in somebody that's going to compete for you and bring some veteran leadership. You lost Shaq Mason, you cut him. So now it just gives you that ability where you have a guy that you feel confident is going to be reliable for you, if nothing else. Can be a guy that a mid-tier starter and maybe bring somebody else in the draft or whatever, right? And it doesn't force your hand there because he's not being paid tons. It's $4.25 up to $5 million. Resign-wise, Jake Hansen, Darrell Ogunbowale, great special teamer. Both the guys are a good special teamer. Hansen, nice backup linebacker as well. Derek Barnett, nice signing his depth. He was been a really solid backup for them as an edge rusher. MJ Stewart, fine with that too. Another core special teamer. He's the leader there as a special teamer. Mario Edwards, good situational pass rusher, 2-year deal, just under $10 million. He's a nice player to have on that defensive line. They can play up and down there. Now, they did have to trade Laramie Tunsil, okay. Now, I actually did not give this grade as bad as maybe what I originally thought at first because like they got multiple draft picks out of this. They got a second rounder next year. They got a third rounder this year. They got a couple of mid-round picks. They did have to swap a fourth rounder, I believe, this year. But in general, they got some return. They have been like foreshadowing this trade for quite a minute now, and it's finally done. So to me, that signals they're going to be looking at offensive line relatively early in this draft class as well. Or maybe they feel confident Blake Fisher. I don't know. That's the only thing. Maybe Tyus Howard, is he going to be the left tackle going into the season? There's going to be some questions at tackle and what they're going to do. On to the Los Angeles Rams, and it starts with a couple of big name signings here with Devontae Adams, 2 years, $46 million. That's a lot of money, but he's going to play more as of the on the line of scrimmage wide receiver in that room. I think they're looking for, you got Puka Nacua, of course, is their number one wide receiver. You move him around in motion. Same thing with Tutu Atwell, who they brought back on a 1-year deal, and I like that. Hopefully they use Tutu a little bit more because he was super productive when they actually used him. But I felt like he was a little underutilized at times, so we'll see how that thing goes there. But Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, Tutu Atwell, really solid group right there. And it is a little expensive. I think Devontae Adams, at this point in his career, is not a true number one, but once again, they've got their true number one in Puka Nacua. And as a number 2 guy, he should be able to feed and eat really, really well as a receiver for them. I don't know. That didn't quite make any sense, but it is what it is. And then you got Poona Ford. This is the exact type of guy they needed. You got studs there on that defensive line. Turner and Braden Fisk, they get after the quarterback, and they get after the quarterback in a hurry. But who's that run defender? Who's going to be that gap-controlling guy? Poona Ford can do that. Really good for the Chargers this season. And I think for 3 years, $30 million, it's a big price point, but I do think he's worth it. And you look at guys like DJ Jones, he got paid more. He got, $13 million. TJ Slayton did get a little less than that. So there's some competition there. They paid for him, and I think he's worth it. And then Aldrick Jackson, huge re-sign, of course. That's one that was earlier on. And you look at some of these other contracts, it looks even better now, right? So that's an A+ for me. Jimmy Garoppolo's back. Okay, it is, but it's fine. No big deal. And then Jonah Jackson was traded for a 6th-round pick. Okay, it didn't work out. That is what it is. You move on. I totally get that. It was a botch of a free agent signing. You're trying to play him at center. I think he's more of a natural guard anyway. On to the Baltimore Ravens, and this one I do want to mention real quick. Patrick Card was re-signed, so I just took the news on that one, and once again, these are updating. I tried to wait as long as I could until things were starting to slow down, and I felt like this was a good time to do it. And Ricard, huge signing, Pro Bowl full. I mean, he's the best fullback in the NFL, one of the best lead blockers in the NFL. So I can't understate the importance of bringing him back. I love that. Now they did lose Patrick Ricard in free agency, so there's going to be a void to fill there to the Jaguars. But Ronnie Stanley's back, and this once again, as we talked about earlier, you look at guys like dudes out there such as Dan Moore or, whatever, right? These other guys that got paid a lot more. And I feel like for Ronnie Stanley, $20 million average, or even looking at Jalen Moore to the Chiefs, who got, like $15 million average, this is a great deal for the Baltimore Ravens. So just being patient, getting him before the signings, really good job. And overall, successful Baltimore. They don't really go big at in free agency because they're trying to keep their comp picks. And it makes a lot of sense. So guys that get released to watch out for, maybe like Leonard Floyd, Malik Collins, or maybe even a Jevon Hargrave. I can see Jevon Hargrave coming into town. That would be a really good signing actually for them. And then on to the Detroit Lions, where we start off with DJ Reed, formerly of the Jets. And as a Jets fan, what you're getting in DJ Reed, a really good football player. He did take a step back in coverage, in my opinion, this season, but so did the Jets secondary as a whole. Overall, I'm excited to see how Reed bounces back this season. He's going to be the veteran leader in that cornerback room with a lot of young guys as well. But a very solid signing there. And then you get Derek Barnes back and Marcus Davenport. I was a little taken back by the Marcus Davenport re-sign, especially with the injury risk at this point. But they've been patient with these guys, like Emmanuel Mosley. They gave him another chance, so it makes sense. We'll see. And it's only up to $4.75 million or $4.75 million, so it's not like incredibly risky or anything like that. Derek Barnes coming back from injury will be so huge for that defense and that defensive line because they use him on a hybrid role. Za'Darius Smith, they did have to let go. It probably made sense for them because they didn't want to take the cap hit on to next year as well, because it would have worked out to be like a 1 year, $11 million in cash that would have been spread out over 2 years. They probably just said, we're not going to do that. In general, not too much to report just yet for the Detroit Lions. They got a good football team. They're going to go into the draft and just try to build some youth and more talent there, I imagine. Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell. But we go on to the Washington Commanders. Well, this is a team that's been busy, right? Adam Peters, Dan Quinn. Oh, they're getting some talent. They're upgrading this roster. They're getting aggressive. They won that Super Bowl. Laramie Tunsil, they traded for him. They gave up multiple picks, so that's why I only give it a B+, but he's going to be that bookend left tackle. Maybe move Coleman over to right tackle. We'll see how they figure that out. You could also move Coleman inside to left guard, which would be an option for them too. We'll see how it all works out and how Nick Allegretti goes about those sort of things. But anyway, I love it. I think it's a really good addition for their roster, and he's certainly going to have some much needed protection, and he's going to be under contract for the next 2 years as well on a fair deal for them. Deebo Samuel traded a 5th round pick. They're taking on the contract, but remember, they have the cap space to take on these contracts, so they can do it. And by getting these guys in here, you're going to elevate the talent and add that other playmaker to go along with Scary Terry, and that's what they needed. And he's going to bring a ton of yak threat there. And then Will, and also allows Luke McCaffrey to continue to come along. Will Harris, going to be some more depth here, 2 years, $8 million. Going to compete, right? You end up losing Jeremy Chin. And Will Harris, definitely not, as confident as Jeremy Chin coming back, for sure. That's a tough loss. Harris, a good backup. They're going to maybe have to look at addressing that, though, into the draft now. Jevon Kinlaw, 3 years. This was their replacement for Jonathan Allen. I don't love it, right? I would have loved for them to rework Jonathan Allen and figure things out there, but obviously it just didn't work out, maybe behind the scenes, whatever's going on there. Kinlaw, once again, as a Jets fan, I know it can be tough being a Jets fan, but I am a Jets fan, I always will be. I love every team, though, I really do, I just love football. Jevon Kinlaw is a guy that, what I saw from the Jets, he's a good pass rusher, can't quite hold the point of attack in the run game at this point, just get pushed around at times, but as a pass rusher, he's going to help them out in that regard. And hopefully that you get a next step up from guys like Jerzon Newton on that defensive line. And then in terms of guys that they brought in terms of re-signs, you got Zach Ertz, John Bates. I love the Zach Ertz re-sign. John Bates, a great blocker. Both of those guys, really like that. Bobby Wagner, unfinished business. The chemistry that he has with Jaden Daniels. Want to see them back together. I love it. That's a great move. Zane Gonzalez, Tressway, bring back your special teams guys. Got to bring Tressway back. Great punter as well. Jonathan Allen, though, the big unfortunate loss for sure. It's going to be a tough fill there, but hopefully Javon Kinlaw can fill it. On to the Buffalo Bills, and you got Joshua Palmer, one of my underrated. I think he is going to have a breakout campaign next season for the Buffalo Bills. And he's exactly what they needed. Amari Cooper just didn't quite work out, I think, of what they were looking for. And not to mention, I think Palmer's just going to be cheaper, too. And for $12 million average, he's going to be more of that route runner in the room, right? He's going to be that guy to go along with Keon Coleman as that contested catch guy. Khalil Shear is the yak slot machine. Like, it just gives you a little bit of everything in that room. Obviously, Dalton Kincaid at the tight end position for them. Palmer will be a really, really good ad. I like that signing a ton. And then Michael Hoyt, I also love this signing. Hoyt's an underrated player at the Rams. He's a tough-nosed, gritty guy. Yeah, he doesn't have the elite athletic traits, but his motor is nonstop, and he can play a little inside-out versatility as well. You bring back your guys, though, here. I mean, all these signings, A-plus moves, and long snapper Reed Ferguson as well. Nice, solid re-sign there. They did let go of Von Miller to save some money and be able to extend your core pieces like, of course, Allen, Rousseau, Bernard, and Shakir. We move on to the Kansas City Chiefs here, and you start off with Jalen Moore, probably the most fascinating signing out of maybe a lot of these teams. 2 years, $30 million. I give it a C as the first initial reaction, but once again, Moore is a guy that I just have not seen enough of. Now, what I did see of the 49ers this season when he was out there, he was good. Now, Shanahan and that offense is a little bit different. Okay, they don't always ask their tackles to go true one-on-one positions, right? They're a wide zone team, and they get their offensive line on the move. So for the Chiefs, they're going to be a lot more 7-step drops, more true pass sets. Can Moore hang up in those scenarios? He's got the athletic profile. He's built up his muscle mass, gotten stronger. So I love the development, and the upside is there. So that's why I think this could easily turn into an A move. If it works out, it's going to be a steal of a signing. It's just a little bit of the unknown, new familiarity situation. There is a little bit of that. So that's my one little nitpick on this, but the talent is there with Jalen Moore. And then Christian Fulton, I like this signing a lot. Really solid contract, 2 years, $20 million, $10 million average. Especially with, like I said, some of the cornerbacks going out there. Fulton was excellent at the beginning of the year. He took a big drop-off at the end of the season. Once again, probably left a little bit of a sore taste in the mouth of the Chargers. Dealt with some injuries, too. But he was excellent, like I said, at the beginning of the year. And adds some more depth, right? And that allows Trent McDuffie to play in the slot, too, maybe a little bit more. So you can go into next season, Watson, Fulton on the outside, and then McDuffie in the slot, depending on the game and the matchup. In terms of bringing back their guys, like Trey Smith, a franchise tag, hopefully they work a long-term extension. I love bringing back Hollywood Brown as well. I thought he showed excellent chemistry with Patrick Mahomes. You got your long snapper back, James Winston, fine, no problem. Nick Bolton, I didn't expect them to bring him back. Like, I thought that he was going to get priced out. No, they brought him back. So, really glad they were able to find the money. Bolton's just an energizer bunny there. And then the big leg machine, Matt Araiza, comes in on a minimum tender deal. Joe Thuney traded, unfortunately. Right, that's the tough assignment, but I gave it only a C+ because, like, in terms, I would have given it a worse grade. At the same time, I also understand where the Chiefs are at situation-wise. You have to make some tough decisions at times when you're in this situation, as they are, and they're trying to keep this team good for a long period of time. So you can't just say, we're going to move the cap and we'll deal with it at a later date. You can't always do that. So I think that it was a move that they had to make. They get a 4th rounder back as well in 2026. So at least they got something out of it. It's a very tough loss because he was really the MVP of their offensive line, in my opinion, or maybe even of the offense at times. So you got to give a lot of credit to Joe Thuney and what he was able to do, but unfortunately, Thuney, they had to move on. The contract was just too tough. Let's finish it up, though, with the Philadelphia Eagles and the Super Bowl champions, starting off with a couple of trades. DTR from the Cleveland Browns, and that was the trade with the Kenny Pickett one. I like the maneuver in terms of at least getting a 5th-round pick for Kenny Pickett, and we mentioned that as well. So, hand in hand, it's fine. Like, DTR, I don't know if even is going to be the backup for them, because I think Tanner McKee is really going to be their backup going forward, which I'm fine. Like, DTR is your quarterback number 3. Makes a lot of sense. Maybe you work him in as a sub-package runner. So, that's why I gave it a B-. I don't hate that one, especially considering they got a 5th-round pick out of it as well. Kenyon Green, this one I'm a little bit more shaky on. Like, I'm not surprised that they were going to trade Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I thought maybe they could have gotten a little bit more, especially with his contract not being super expensive. So that's why I was a little bit surprised they didn't get a little bit more out of it. Now, Green, going to be a little bit of a reclamation project possibly for Jeff Stoutland, and that gets him into that university. So maybe there's, a little bit there. Who knows? For right now, though, just a little bit shaky on that one. Re-signs-wise, love both of these. Saquon Barkley, give him an extension, make him the highest paid running back. He earned it. Zach Bond, he earned it as well. I mean, he was an MVP of that defense. A little bit, like that guy was unbelievable this season. What he did in coverage, making plays around the line of scrimmage, forcing fumbles, he is unbelievable. And then we finish it off with some of their cuts here with Kenny Pickett, they traded Kenny Pickett, of course, which again I think is good for a 5th-round pick. Darius Slay, James Bradbury, both gone. Now, I could see them bringing back Slay once again, reuniting, similar like what they did with Fletcher Cox later down the line. Overall, fine in what they've been able to do for the Eagles so far. The only thing I nitpick is the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson thing. Well, that's going to do it here for the free agency grades and breakdown and my opinions, which again, these are just my opinions, which are probably way off course. Let me know your thoughts, your opinions on it, though. Who won free agency so far? Who's winning free agency so far, should I say? Who lost free agency or who's losing free agency? And we'll go into it as we're going to be bringing a mock draft here very, very soon. I can't wait. I'm so pumped up. But I'll talk to you really, really soon. I hope you guys have a really cool day.